What are some misconceptions about karma? In today's video, I'm going to talk about the three biggest ones that I see. So that's what's coming up next. Hey everyone, I'm Brian Easterday and welcome back to Eye of the Storm Astrology. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing the three biggest misunderstandings that I see about karma. Before I get into that, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because I don't want you to miss out on any content that could be helping you turn your challenges into strengths. So karma is a very both complex and simple subject. It has what I like to refer to as complicated simplicity in it. And if for those of you who haven't heard me use that term before, I'll maybe do a video just on it. But I have done a previous video on karma, so go back and check that out if you haven't. But today I specifically want to address some of the bigger misconceptions about it. So the first one that I see, and this especially is common with people in the West or people who have been raised in a monotheistic or like a Christian, Abrahamic type of background or home. And it's this view of karma as punishment. Karma is not punishment. Karma is our actions. We take actions. Those actions then have a result that we experience, which is also karma. And then because of those, we then take other actions. So it's this cyclical thing that we act and then we get a result. And then because of that result, we act and then we get so on and so forth. Why is that? Well, it's for the purpose of education of the soul, for learning, for expanding our awareness, expanding our consciousness. It's Vishnu experiencing himself. So it's not about punishment at all. In the context of, say, difficult karma, right? Say somebody does some really terrible things, and then because of that, in either this incarnation or in their next one, they have to experience challenging or very difficult situations. Well, why is that? Because they didn't have that awareness before. So by then having to go experience those difficult things, they can understand what it's like, and then they can gain that awareness. It has nothing to do with punishment. So get that idea out of your head as quickly as you can, and you'll be much better off in understanding Vedic philosophy. Now, this is another one that I like to see, and this is a big one that I see that people who don't think karma is something like I one time had a person comment that karma, what a load of bullshit. Why would you just have different lives and then just forget them every time? Like, why would you work to study for a test and then forget all the answers for the test? It's a fair question. This person also claimed to study Vedic philosophy for 30 years, which I also definitely know is not true, because if you studied Vedic philosophy for that long, you wouldn't have such a childish understanding of karma. The mature understanding of karma is that as we go through different incarnations, we're having different experiences, right? Now, we both forget those experiences and remember those. How can that be? Because we are not just this body, right? This is just a vessel. We're an atma. So we experience death and rebirth, reincarnation, but we're also eternal. The soul always exists. I actually did a video on that, how we be both mortal and immortal. If you haven't watched that, go back and check that out. And I explained this concept. So from the perspective of this incarnation, where we're experiencing life and death, it appears to us as though we're forgetting. And there's a reason for that. A few of them. The big one is that imagine how much time people in their regular lives spend dwelling in their past or in the future, and they're just not in the present moment. A lot of people spend a lot of time living in the past. Now imagine if you had all these different memories from all these different incarnations, how much time you could spend thinking about that. So much so that it would actually be a distraction from your goal. What is the goal of going through different incarnations of different experiences? The goal is to have a new experience from a new perspective, a different perspective. If you were constantly had all these other ones jumbling up your brain, you wouldn't be allowed to actually mold yourself or get yourself into the experience of feeling like a limited individual, to have that unique experience. In order to do that, that situation needs to be unique, and it needs to not have the influence of other things. Now if other things are prevalent or relevant to that experience, like there's some lesson your soul needs to continue with, then some past life stuff may come through. That's when we see those type of things. A lot of that will have to do with K2. But the Atma, the soul overall, doesn't forget. Like when we pass on and we're going through kind of our review period, what the soul does is that it reviews all these different experiences. Like, okay, I've had all these different experiences. What's the next experience that I haven't had that I want? And then it makes itself unique again. It manifests again into a unique consciousness in order to have a totally new experience. So there's a reason why we would forget, but also not really forget. So anyone who who isn't understanding that and saying that they've really studied Vedic philosophy and they don't get that simple thing, they haven't. Now the last one. This is a really interesting one, and I find it very interesting because there's kind of a keyword that I will hear people use a lot. And generally, if I hear people using a lot, it's an indication that they don't really understand karma, or they may think they have an understanding of it, but they don't. It's the use of the word suddenly. And I'm not saying you shouldn't use that word at all. That's not what I'm saying. But the idea that things suddenly happen to us just came out of nowhere. There were no indications of it. It just manifested out of nowhere. When you really understand karma, and that karma is momentum that is built up from our previous actions. Nothing happens suddenly, especially if it's like a big thing in life. For example, like um you get fired from a job. Like, oh, all of a sudden I got fired. No, they probably didn't just instantly make that decision, or there was some other series of events that led up to that. Now, we may experience events and from our limited perspective, because we're just in that event right then and there, we're not stepping back and looking at a broader perspective. It may appear as if we're experiencing things suddenly, but that is only based off of our limited perspective. When we actually step back and look, you can always see that there are many different things, lots of different actions that will lead up to other ones. So, with the example of like career, say someone getting fired or someone deciding to quit their job, maybe their manager's like, man, all of a sudden that person just decided to quit. No, that person probably didn't all of a sudden decide to quit. They probably had a bunch of grievances for a while. And when they tried to bring them up or get them addressed, they weren't addressed properly or whatever it may be. Same in like say a relationship, like a romantic relationship. Oh, this person just suddenly left me. That's not the case. There's usually a series of events leading up to that, because for people to take action to do things, that's based off of what their mind. The mind is the way we experience karma. So for them to get up to do a certain action, to do the certain event, say like leaving a job or leaving a relationship or leaving a career or whatever it may be, their mind had to become molded to the place that it wanted to make those decisions. that happened because of the results and experience of other events that were previous to that. So nothing suddenly happens. So if your spouse leaves you, or your business partner decides to go out on their own, or whatever it may be, it's not a suddenly type of thing. It may appear suddenly if you're looking at it from a tiny limited perspective and being stuck in your own emotional projection, but when you actually step back and look at a broader perspective, there's series of events that they take time to build up and to manifest and experience. And usually, especially if it's like a dramatic event or something that is like really like sticks out in your mind of like, oh, what happened there, that really kind of hit me out of nowhere, that's when you need to start looking and seeing, because those situations aren't just things with intensity don't just happen for no reason. And they're usually not done because of just like one reason. It's usually a whole series of them. Again, a series of actions which build momentum, which we then experience. And that experience may appear as we're experiencing suddenly, but if we're actually aware and wise of how karma works, we'll see that there's results and that there was probably something that we did in order to get that. For example, let's take the example of like a car wreck, right? Someone getting in an accident. They could be driving down the road and then all of a sudden someone smashes into them. Well, that might appear like it was a sudden event, right? But let's step back and look at it. What did that person do? Well, at one point in the day, they decided to go somewhere. Then they got in their vehicle. Then they chose the route that they were going to take. Then they chose how fast they were driving on it, what cars they were staying next to, all those different things. And then one of those vehicles might have got them. Usually when wrecks happen, it's because of a lack of awareness. Someone's not paying attention, right? Something like that. Same thing. If we're not paying attention in our life, all of a sudden a car wreck can happen. And it may seem like it came out of nowhere and it just totally knocked us off our feet. But what we have to do is take responsibility, step back and look and see, like, if this wreck happened, what events led me there and where was my responsibility in those? So when we really understand karma, nothing suddenly happens. It's just another thread in a beautiful long tapestry of the experience of all of us. But it's connected to previous threads. So that's going to wrap this video up. I hope you guys found it useful. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because again, I don't want you to miss out on any videos that could be helping you turn your challenges into strengths. If you need to contact me for consultations, courses, whatever it may be, you can click the link below in the description to my link tree. That's a one-stop shop for my social media, website, all the different ways in which to contact me and follow my work. Thank you for tuning in, guys. And remember, by creating more awareness, we create more opportunity to be the best versions of ourselves. I appreciate you guys' support, and I'll see you guys next time.